Anna King. Are you even a woman? You can't even bear children.
I'm not a woman. Then what am I?
Anna King clutched the basket of apples as if it were the last life preserver. 2 months after Enoch's death, and here she was, walking to school again, while the community's whisper sliced her back sharper than a knife. A barren widow drifted over the fence last evening when her mother turned toward the stove. 7 years of marriage without children, without warmth, only duty and the fever that took him overnight. God did not bless, the neighbors said, as if she herself were to blame for the empty bed. Anna quickened her step along the path. Do not scroll. The most interesting part is ahead. Subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment. The school emerged from the mist, a rough log cabin where children from 5 to 14 years of age crowded onto benches, with no breaks for separate classes. The children were already chattering inside, and Anna pushed the door open, breathing in the smell of chalk and damp wood. Basket on the table and forward to the lesson. But the memories would not let go. Enoch lay on his back, not touching her, and his mother at meetings cast looks heavy with reproach. Why did you not give him a son? No one said it aloud, but eyes shouted it. Anna pressed her lips together as she laid out the copybooks. Here, among the little ones, she was simply the teacher, not the one who cannot. The prayer began at once, Psalm 127, unless the Lord builds the house. The children repeated in unison, their voices ringing like the bells on a harness. Anna walked between the rows, adjusting the quill in Eli's hand, whispering a prompt to Ruth. The quiet held firm until voices rustled outside the window. Martha Fisher and Ellie Bechtel with baskets of eggs. Anna stepped closer without stopping. Enoch deserved better, Martha hissed. 7 years and no one. Now she struts about as if God does not punish her. Ellie snickered. Barren, who would take her? Anna drew back, her heart pounding. The children traced their letters, not hearing, but the words struck her chest. Punishing, she thought, gripping the edge of the desk. As if I did not pray through the nights, did not wait for a miracle. As if I were not afraid it was true. Her hands trembled as she took up the chalk. The lesson went on, but her voice broke mid-sentence. After the midday meal along the road to Sarah Lapp's for a quilting frolic. The children chased one another among the wagons, laughter ringing. Anna sat on a bench and took a blue scrap, the stitches neat as her life. Tidy, but empty. The talk flowed about the harvest, the barn raising, the horses. But the glances slid over her careful, as if over a cracked cup. Samuel Yoder stood by the shed with a hammer in his hand. He was repairing the school chest, the blows rhythmic, the shavings falling like snow. 26 years old, a carpenter who had returned from Rumspringa and kept to the Ordnung like a chain. The community respected him. Samuel was taciturn, his eyes gray and intent. Anna watched him straighten, wipe his brow, and something tightened in her chest. There was steadiness in his movements, the kind Enoch had lacked. Jonas, a boy of 8 years, shoved the chest, testing it. It rocked. Samuel set a hand on the boy's shoulder and said softly, "Hold up, Jonas. The wood is still fragile. Do not break it." Anna stepped closer, her heart thudding from the surprise. Their eyes met his calm, hers with a spark. "Thank you for fixing it," she said, her voice firm but tinged with warmth. "For the school always, Frau King," he answered, without looking away. "The children deserve something sturdy." Another heartbeat, and she turned aside, her cheeks burning. What is this? She thought. Only words. Rachel Lapp sat across from her. Fair-haired, 22 years old, the model of the community cows in the stall, a loom at home. She leaned to Eva. "Did you see? The widow is already attaching herself to the carpenter, and she has no children. How would God allow that?" The words struck quietly, but Anna heard. She clenched the scrap without raising her eyes. Rachel had circled Samuel for a long time, baking bread, smiling at gatherings. Now it was poison, drop by drop. Suddenly a crack. The horse hitched to the wagon with scraps, lurched. The rein had been tossed carelessly. The wagon rolled toward the children by the hay. Screams ripped the air. Anna sprang forward, grabbing Eli and Ruth and pressing them to the ground. Dust slapped her face, hooves thudded by an inch. Samuel leaped, his hand on the rein. He pulled the horse back, muscles straining, whispering, "Easy, boy." He stopped the animal and ran to check the little ones. "Are you all right?" His voice was low and steady. "Yes, thank you," Anna breathed, holding Eli. Their motions his grip, her sheltering arms merged like one heartbeat. The women rushed to soothe, and Rachel stood aside, her lips pressed thin. The day passed in sewing and talk, but Anna could not shake the warmth of his hands on the rein. In the evening, at the school, a kerosene lamp flickered above the copybooks. The door stood open as was proper. Anna sorted the papers when the hinges creaked. Samuel entered, holding a folder, hat removed. "Frau King," he said, polite yet firm, "would you help with some bookkeeping? The English contracts, the print is so small that I cannot make it out." She rose, breath catching. In the passage beyond the door, a shadow slender, with a cap. Rachel. She stood listening. Help or step back, she thought. Anna stood by the desk at the school, the kerosene lamp throwing yellow light across a stack of copybooks. The door was wide open, as the Ordnung required the purity of intention does not hide in shadow. Samuel held a folder of papers. Rachel's shadow in the doorway vanished as quickly as it had appeared, but Anna felt it, the sharp look that slid over her like a blade. Her heart tightened. She heard, and tomorrow she will tell. "I can help," Anna said, her voice steady though her hands nearly trembled. "But not here. At your workshop in the evening. The door will be open, and my sister Martha will be with us. She is younger, but dependable." Samuel nodded without hesitation. "That suits me. Martha is a good girl. Tomorrow after the evening meal." They arranged it quickly. 3 evenings a week, no more than an hour each time, only the contracts with the English, those where the tiny print muddled the numbers in the agreements for lumber. Anna watched him walk down the path, his outline dissolving into the dusk. "Just help," she told herself. "Nothing more. Then why is my heart racing as if I had been running?" At home, her mother waited with supper potatoes with onions, bread fresh from the oven. Martha, 16 years old, her braids tucked under her cap, had already heard about the request. "I will come, Anna," her sister said, washing the dishes. Anna only nodded. The next evening, Samuel's workshop. There was no electricity, a kerosene lamp on the bench, its dim light dancing over the tools. A foot-powered lathe stood in the corner, the pedals gleaming from constant use. The door stood open, and Martha sat on the bench with her needlework, a towel with simple patterns, her needle moving in a steady rhythm. Samuel spread the papers on a board neatly, as if they were not contracts but a Bible. Anna sat opposite and opened the first page. The print truly was tiny. The numbers tangled through the lines about deliveries of boards to the English, the ones building roads beyond the community. "Right here," she said, pointing with her finger. $150 per cubic unit, not 200. Read slowly, syllable by syllable. Samuel bent closer, his shoulder nearly touching hers. He repeated aloud, his voice low with a slight Pennsylvania Dutch accent. 50 cubic units, payment in 1 week. His calloused hands held the pen carefully, as if it might break. Anna watched him keep the books, the columns of numbers neat, without blotches. He respects order, she thought. The Ordnung does not weigh on him the way it does on me. For him, it is a frame, not a cage. Martha cleared her throat gently, a reminder of her presence. The lesson went on. Anna explained how to calculate the interest on grain. Samuel wrote, occasionally asking for clarification. They did not talk about anything extra, only the papers. But the quiet between words was warm, not oppressive. In Deacon Reef's yard, the gossip thickened the very next day. Anna was walking with a basket of eggs to the church when she herded a cluster of women by the well, their buckets clanking, their voices whispering. "Did you see it? Widow King in Yoder's workshop in the evening," said Eva Strock, wiping her hands on her apron. "They say the door was open, but who knows what goes on there?" A neighbor, Lizzie, nodded. She forgot modesty. Enoch has barely cooled in the ground, and she already. Anna stopped behind the corner of the shed, her heart hammering. Forgot, she thought, squeezing the basket, as if I were seeking rather than surviving, as if helping were a sin. She did not step out or argue, she simply walked on, but the words clung like burrs to a skirt. The bake sale on Saturday buzzed in the central square. Anna stood at the school's table, selling her apple pies. The proceeds were for new copybooks. The children milled around, helping arrange things. Samuel came up quietly, a basket in his hands. His hat tilted slightly, his eyes scanned the table. "I will take one," he said, laying down coins, "for the boys at home." Anna wrapped the pie in paper, smiling in spite of herself. "Do they like cinnamon?" "They do. Thank you." He took the pie and at once handed it to two little ones, his nephews, tugging at his sleeve. The boys grabbed it, laughing, biting into it while it was still hot. Samuel did not eat any himself, he only watched them chew, a quiet warmth in his eyes. Anna felt a sting in her chest, the simplicity of the gesture, without words, without show. He gives without tallying, she thought, and I only take on burdens. Rachel Lapp stood nearby at a table with jars of jam. She monitored everything, how Samuel approached, how Anna smiled. Rachel's hands tightened around a jar until her fingers went white. Secret meetings, she thought, in the workshop in the evening. Unclean intentions, even with an open door. After the sale, she began, first to Eva, whispering by a wagon. "Did you hear? They saw Anna with Samuel. It is not just business, I tell you. A widow already hunting for a match." Eva stared. "Truly, but Martha is with them. Martha, a child who sees nothing. The community must know." By evening, the slander had flown, at the church gathering, by the wells, in the yards. Secret lessons, unclean looks. Several women picked it up. Lizzie added a word about forgotten modesties, Martha Fisher about violations of the Ordnung. The community hummed quietly yet insistently, like the squeak of wheels on a road. Bishop Miller summoned Anna the next morning to his house. The elders sat at the table, Miller, gray-bearded, with a Bible in his hands, and Deacon Reef, his expression stern. Anna stood on the threshold, her hands tucked into her apron. "Sister King," Miller began gently, his voice like silk over stone. "We have heard about the lessons with Yoder. It is good that the door is open. But keep to the boundaries. The community is watching, and whispers can wound." Anna nodded, her throat tight. "I understand, Bishop. It is only help, with Martha present. Nothing more." Reef snorted. "See to it that it remains so." They dismissed her with a blessing, but the words stayed a reminder of the frame that was tightening. That evening in the workshop, the lesson continued. The lamp was warm, the kerosene faintly crackled. Anna turned a page of the contract, and Samuel wrote. Her eyes fell on his hands, calluses from the bench, rough yet precise, holding the pen without a tremor. "He builds, he mends," she thought, "and I am breaking under words." Samuel glanced up, noticing her handwriting in the ledger tidy, with little curls on the letter S, like in old letters. "Fine penmanship, Frau King," he said quietly. "Clear." She looked away, a smile escaping in spite of her. He smiled too briefly, hiding it in his beard. Martha sat off to the side, her sewing in hand, but Anna's heart pounded. Close, she thought, too close for mere lessons. Anna woke before sunrise, when the fog still clung to the house windows. Sleep had not come easily after the evening before. The warmth of Samuel's palm on the workshop threshold still felt like an imprint on her skin. She rose quietly so as not to wake her mother and stepped out into the yard, where the cold air nipped her cheeks. The community woke slowly. Somewhere a rooster crowed, the well's wheel creaked. Anna took the bucket and went for water, her thoughts circling Bishop Miller's words, "Keep to the boundaries." And what if the boundaries are closing in? She thought as the water sloshed. What if help becomes a sin in the eyes of others? The craftsman's fair awaited today, a noisy day when gossip traveled faster than dust from wagon wheels. She returned to the house and set the kettle, but peace did not come. Rachel would not let up. Anna felt it like the coming of rain. The fair was already humming when she arrived. Tables lined up in a row, baskets of apples, towels with embroidery, knives with bone handles. Samuel Yoder stood at his table where his handiwork lay. He laid the items out carefully as if for prayer, brushing away a speck of dust with his sleeve. Children ran past, touching things with their fingers, and adults stopped to haggle. Samuel sold little. The main thing was that the community saw diligence, not greed. Yet his thoughts drifted to the evening lessons. Anna explaining the numbers, her voice steady, her hands precise. Something in that quiet eased the weight he carried. Anna set a basket of towels for the school on the neighbor's table, exchanging greetings. The hum of the fair drowned out whispering, but she felt the looks. Women averted their eyes when she passed. Rachel Lapp was already there, standing with a circle of seamstresses, her table of embroidered doilies drawing attention. Rachel smiled at customers, but her eyes searched for Anna. It is time, she thought, publicly, where everyone will hear. She began softly. She stepped to Eva and Lizzie with a sample of her work in hand. "Sisters, look," Rachel said, unfolding the doily. "The purity of the pattern, as is fitting, but some forget purity of heart. Did you see yesterday? Widow King in Yoder's workshop, in the evening. The door may be open, but what goes on there?" Eva leaned closer, her voice low. "I heard." Lizzie added, glancing around, "The rules are for everyone. Your anger is righteous, Rachel. Let us gather." Rachel nodded, and the circle widened. 2 more women joined. The whisper grew louder. They stood by the table with tools, where Samuel was just explaining to a buyer how the hinge held on a chest. Rachel waited for her moment. Anna stepped closer to buy nails for the school. The hubbub of the fair children's laughter, the thud of hammers suddenly went mute inside Rachel's head. She stepped forward, her voice rising above the noise. "Anna King," Rachel cried, as if speaking from a pulpit. "You come to the fair as if nothing has happened. Why are you hovering around Samuel Yoder as if it were your right? Our community has girls who keep the Ordnung clean, without a shadow, the ones who can give a man a true home and a blessing. And you, are you a woman at all? You cannot even bear children." The words struck like thunder over the fields. The women around them froze, customers halted, the wagon wheels gave one last squeak. Anna stood with the nails in her hand, her face drained of color. Her hands trembled, the basket nearly fell. Sound blurred, the fair's hum grew hollow, as if underwater, and Rachel's words echoed in her head. "You cannot, you cannot." Years of silent shame flooded back. Her mother-in-law's looks at meetings, the neighbor's whispers by the well, the empty bed after the fever. 7 years, Anna thought, her throat tight. Without warmth, without heirs. I prayed, I waited, but God was silent. And now this out loud, before everyone. I am not a woman? Then what am I? Tears surged, but she held them back, clenching the nails in her fist. The community watched. Men frowned, women whispered. Samuel heard the shout from behind the table. He let the buyer go and stepped forward, placing himself between Anna and Rachel. His figure shielded Anna from the crowd, his shoulders set, but his voice remained quiet and firm, like an oak plank. "Enough, Rachel," he said without raising his tone. "Our rules are about mercy as much as about boundaries. You wound a sister before God and people. Step back." Rachel retreated a pace, her eyes flashing with anger, but the words stuck. The onlookers' expressions shifted. The whispering ebbed. A few gave Samuel small nods. He is right. Someone led children away. Anna stood behind his back, her breath uneven, but his presence like a wall against the wind gave her the strength not to fall. He protects, she thought, not with empty words, but with action. The fair went on slowly, as if after a rain. Rachel returned to her table, lips clenched, but the circle of women dispersed, not gone, only hushed. Anna gathered her basket and walked to the wagon, her legs heavy as a sack of grain. At home, she sat on the bench, her hands still shaking. Her mother brought tea in silence, but Anna did not drink. The words of Rachel kept circling in her mind. Why now? She thought. Because I smiled? Because I helped? The shame is not in me, and yet it hurts like a wound. That evening, Samuel's workshop waited the door open, the kerosene lamp burning steady. Martha sat with her sewing, but the lesson did not begin at once. Samuel set the folder on the workbench and looked straight at Anna. "Tonight is not about papers," he said. "It is about the gossip. I have heard what they are saying. Let us make the lessons public for all the craftsmen. Once a week, in the church or in the yard. With an overseer from the community, let the bishop himself appoint someone. That way we will keep you safe from this." Anna nodded and sat. The scent of wood calmed her, but her chest still felt tight. "Thank you, Samuel. You did not have to, at the fair." "I had to. You're a good person. The community needs all of you." They began the lesson numbers in the contracts, but the words kept flowing, softer now. Martha stepped out for a moment, leaving the door half closed. Ordnung was Ordnung. Silence came in, warm from the lamp. Anna set down her pen, her voice trembled. "Marriage to Enoch, without love," she said, looking toward the slate. "He was kind, diligent, but our souls never touched. I never went to a doctor, not once. Our faith does not allow doubting God's plan. So I only think that I cannot have children. I think, and I am afraid." The words burst out like a gasp after a long hold. Samuel listened without interrupting, his hands resting on the workbench. Then he nodded, his voice low. "I understand your pain. My brother never came back from Rumspringa. He stayed in the English world cars, speed, bar fights. He died in one. If he had been here, in the community, he would have lived long. The rules would have kept him." His eyes darkened, his shoulders sank. Anna saw it the same weight she carried, a loss that would not heal. The silence after the words grew deeper, becoming trust. When the lesson ended, Anna stood, gathering her papers. At the threshold wooden, its edge carved, she caught her foot and slid on a thin film of dust. The basket flew, but Samuel caught her by the hand, palm to palm, warm, rough with calluses. Their eyes met, his gray, hers brown. The moment stretched. Anna's heart hammered. Warmth spread down her arm. He held a heartbeat longer than he needed, then let go and stepped back. She did the same, one step back, her cheeks burning. "Careful," he said quietly. "Thank you," she whispered, grabbing the basket. The door closed behind her, but the warmth remained. The next day, Samuel went to Anna's parents' house, a simple place, white walls and a door that creaked at his knock. Her father, Josiah, sat at the table with a Bible. Her mother, Sarah, was kneading dough. Anna was at the school, but Martha had whispered, "He is coming." Tense quiet filled the room as he entered, hat in hand. "I have come to ask permission to court," Samuel said plainly, his voice even. "By the rules, Anna, officially." Josiah looked up. Sarah froze with a sleeve of dough in her hands. The quiet stretched heavy, but at the corners of the parents' mouths hid small smiles. "He is serious," Sarah thought, "and a good match." Samuel stood waiting for their answer, his heart beating like a hammer. Anna's parents sat at the table. Josiah's Bible lay open to Psalm 37. "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will sustain you." Sarah lowered her flour-dusted sleeve. The tension in the room melted slowly. Josiah cleared his throat, peering over his glasses at Samuel. "You are a good man, Yoder," he said at last, his voice steady. "You keep to the rules. We bless the courtship. With Anna, officially, with supervised visits." Sarah nodded, a smile slipping free. "She deserves peace, and so do you." Samuel thanked them, his hat clenched in his hands. They see, he thought, not a burden, but a pair. He left, and the house kept its quiet warm with the smell of fresh bread. Her heart tightened, joy mixed with fear. Courtship, by the rules, but can I bear the stairs? The first visits began the next week, modest, as was fitting. Samuel came after supper to the king's house, with Anna's parents at the table. The kerosene candles burned steady. The door stood open to the yard where the rustle from the hay in the barnyard whispered of order. They sat in a circle, Anna across from him, hands in her apron, Josiah with the Bible, Sarah with tea. The talk flowed slowly about the corn harvest, about a barn raising, about scripture. Samuel did not touch her hand, only met her eyes' brief glances that said more than words. "The corn is good this year," he said one evening, looking at Anna. "The paths between the rows are narrow, but they lead straight." She nodded. After the visits came walks along the narrow path through the corn, with Martha or a neighbor as chaperone. The leaves whispered overhead, the smell of earth after rain clung to their clothes. They walked side by side, not touching, speaking of simple things. The school, the wood for a chest. Exchanging gifts became a language. Anna gave an embroidered towel, plain, with red thread on the edges, for his workbench. "To keep the dust off," she said, hiding a smile. Samuel answered with a wooden handle for a chest smooth, carved with a pattern that matched her needlework. "For your things," he said, placing it in her palm. Her fingers brushed his a moment and withdrew. This is feeling, Anna thought at night, not duty like with Enoch. Public bookkeeping lessons began at the church once a week, as Samuel had proposed. The yard filled with tradesmen, carpenters, blacksmiths, weavers, notebooks in hand. The community deacon, Rafe, sat apart with a pocket watch, keeping time. Anna stood at the slate with chalk, explaining the numbers in Englishmen's contracts. "Here are the interest charges on lumber, calculate line by line." Her voice was firm, though her heart thudded under the eyes upon her. The craftsman nodded, took notes. Samuel sat in the front row, pen resting in calloused fingers. Her reputation cleared a little. The whispering eased. The women at the well said, "Useful work," though Rachel's eyes still pricked. "They see," Anna thought after the lesson. "Not a secret, but a help. Yet the pressure has not vanished, it only hid." Rachel did not give up. She waited for her moment, hiding anger beneath smiles. One morning in Deacon Rafe's yard, where the women scrubbed floors after the meeting, she stepped closer. Rafe stood by the wagon checking the wheels, his beard silvering in the wind. "Deacon," Rachel said softly but firmly, wiping her hands on her apron, "I worry about purity. Samuel Yoder, he listens to the wrong voices. The lessons are public, but the courting is with a widow who gave no heirs. Is it not time to investigate, to hint to the bishop, to be sure it is all by the rules?" Rafe frowned, looking at her. "Whispering is not proof, Rachel, but I will think on it. Ordnung is for all." She nodded, her heart beating with a sense of victory. He listens, she thought. Soon the community will see who is worthy. The barn raising came on Friday, lifting a new barn for the Fisher family, whose old one had burned in a lightning strike. The whole community gathered, men with boards, women with food, children with water. The air smelled of fresh-cut timber and sweat. Wagon wheels creaked like a heartbeat. The walls rose quickly, hammers struck, ropes pulled taut. Anna worked with the women, passing nails, but her gaze slipped toward Samuel up on the high beams, muscles taut beneath his shirt, his movements precise. They found themselves side by side at the base. Anna passed a plank. He drove it home. Their wordless rhythm, her hand to the edge, his hand receiving, needed no speech. We understand each other, she thought, without words, like a tree and its roots. The community saw it, the whisper of a good match threaded through the pounding. Suddenly, a plank up on the beams shifted, tore free of its fastenings. It fell, straight toward a little boy, the fisher's son, running with tools. Shouts ripped the air. Samuel lunged, leaped from the ladder, grabbing the board mid-fall and throwing his body over the child. The wood slammed into the ground. Dust rose. The boy cried, but whole only a scratch on his arm. Anna reached him first. She pulled a clean cloth from her apron and tied the wound quickly, whispering, "Hush, you are all right." Samuel stood, wiping sweat, and looked at her eyes into eyes, an instant of thanks. The crowd froze, then hummed, "They are together, like one." Rachel stood apart, her lips pressed tight. The elder's response was swift that same evening after prayer. Bishop Miller brought Samuel and Anna into the church, with Rafe at his side. Candles flickered, the smell of wax mixed with the cold morning leaking at the windows. The courtship is official, Miller began, gentle but firm. But gossip grows. Either you cease private contact until the wedding only supervised visits, or you keep your distance under our eye, with no walks. Rafe added, Rachel is concerned. She says you, Yoder, listen to the wrong people. Samuel stood straight, Anna beside him, her hands clenched in her apron. We keep the rules, Samuel said. But you saw at the Barnraising we strengthen the community. Bless a quick wedding. In 2 months. Anna nodded, her voice soft. Yes, we are ready. The elders exchanged looks. Miller sighed. Perhaps that is best. Very well. We bless it. But keep it clean without a shadow. They stepped into the night, the air cold, stars over the fields. Anna agreed, but at home, deep in the night, sleep would not come. She lay staring at the ceiling, a hand on her belly. A quick wedding, she thought, her heart tight. But do I deserve it? Barren, with a stain of shame. And if God does not bless us, will Samuel endure? At the next Sunday gathering in the church, after the sermon, the announcement became a culmination. Miller stood on the platform. The community sat in rows. The floor smelled faintly of hay. Brothers and sisters, he said, Samuel Yoder and Anna King are betrothed. The wedding will be in 2 months. We bless you. A murmur rolled through. Joy for some, surprise for others. Anna stood beside Samuel, her hand barely brushing his sleeve. In the crowd by the door, Rachel stone-faced, fists clenched. It is not over, she thought. Not for me. The wedding took place in the church 2 months after the announcement plain, as suited the community, without fuss. The people gathered in rows, men in broad-brim hats, women in bonnets, children sitting quietly on benches. Anna wore a simple blue dress, hands clasped before her, heart racing with joy and worry. Samuel stood beside her in a new shirt, beard neatly trimmed, gray eyes calm. Bishop Miller led the ceremony with a Bible in hand, his voice even, without show. Samuel Yoder, do you take Anna King to be your wife, to live with her in Ordnung, in joy and in burdens, by the will of God? I do, Samuel answered, his voice steady, warmth in his gaze that Anna felt. Before God and the community. Anna King, do you take Samuel Yoder to be your husband, to be with him in faithfulness and work in mercy? I do, she said, her throat tight but her words clear. Before God and all. The vows were simple, their depth in the pauses not words for a show, but a promise for years. Guests smiled lightly, some nodded, someone whispered, Thanks be to God. Afterward, tables in the yard, pies, cheese, bread, tea. Anna and Samuel sat side by side, not touching, but closeness lived in every word. Now we are one, Anna thought, looking at his hand by the plate. Not a shadow of the past, but a beginning. Rachel stood apart with a plate in her hands, lips pressed, saying nothing. The first weeks of marriage passed in the quiet rhythm of their small house white-walled, the door opening onto a field. Suppers together became moments when Anna served potatoes with onions and Samuel sliced bread, his fingers brushing hers as he handed over the knife. They ate slowly, spoke about the day, and sometimes the words faded and he just looked at her, a smile in the corners of his mouth. The chest for the school is finished, he would say, and she would nod. The children are pleased, and lay her palm on his wrist, feeling the warmth of his skin. Afterward, they read the Bible by the kerosene lamp. It's like warm shadows on the walls. Samuel read the Psalms aloud, his voice low. Anna listened with her head on his shoulder. His arm circled her gently, fingers stroking the edge of her apron. Their intimacy was quiet, but alive their breaths wove together in the dark. A hand on a hand under the quilt became an embrace. His lips touched her brow before sleep, with no words about the past, only a warm, I love you in the silence. He sees me, Anna thought at night, pressing closer. Not a label, but a woman who gives warmth. Samuel watched her in sleep and thought, she heals the wound with her strength, with her nearness, and I will not let go. But after 6 weeks, something strange began. One morning, Anna woke sick, tipping toward the edge of the bed. The sun had barely lifted over the fields, and already she wanted to lie back down, weakness in her legs, her head humming. Tired from lessons, she thought, rising slowly. The wedding, the move, everything new. She poured water from the pitcher, sipped in small swallows, but her appetite was gone. Samuel noticed silently, without questions. He took on more, split the firewood alone, fixed the wagon without her help, even drove her to the school so she could rest. She is pale, he thought, gripping the axe. I will not say it, so as not to frighten her. God will give strength. Anna saw it, but kept quiet, ashamed of her weakness, afraid it was a sign from the past. 2 weeks later, the talk could not be avoided. Evening, the lamp on the table, the smell of wood on his hands. Anna sat with tea, but did not drink, looking out the window where dusk swallowed the field. Samuel, she said softly, her voice trembling. I am sick each morning. Weakness. Perhaps I should see a doctor. An English one, with the elder's permission. He looked up from the Bible and set the book on the table. Quiet stretched, but it was not heavy, it was trust. Yes, he answered simply. We will ask Miller. You are not alone. Permission came quickly at church. After prayer, the bishop nodded. God gives the English wisdom in medicine. Go. The morning trip, the wagon on the road, wheels creaking, Samuel holding the reins, Anna beside him, her hands clenched in her apron. The town appeared houses with electricity, cars buzzing, but they kept apart, walking to the clinic. The doctor, an Englishman in a white coat, listened, examined, drew blood. The news dropped in the office like a stone into still water. Congratulations, Mrs. Yoder, the doctor said, looking at the papers. You are pregnant. 6 weeks. The world stopped. The noise of cars outside vanished. Time stood still. Anna sat with a hand on her belly, fingers trembling with excitement. Tears streamed hot down her cheeks, leaving a salty path on her skin, and relief swelled in her chest until breathing hurt with happiness. Her heart pounded as if it would jump out, shouting joy aloud. I can, she thought, her breath uneven, a voice inside her shaking with wonder and gratitude. God has heard my prayers, all those nights of tears and doubt when I hid from the community's whispering. Not punishment for the past, but a gift, a life I feared I could never give, a life that will lift this burden from me forever. Joy overflowed, mixed with a nodding relief that tightened her throat, and she bit her lip so as not to sob right there before the doctor. Samuel took her hand firmly, fingers interlaced, wordless. His eyes shone with unspilled tears. Warmth rose to his cheeks, and emotion swelled in his chest. Our miracle, he thought, his inner voice breaking with a happiness he had not felt in years. My brother would be glad, seeing us build a home full of laughter. The ride home was quiet. Samuel held her hand, his palm warm and rough. The wind teased her bonnet. The fields of Lancaster spread out like a promise. At home, in their room, they knelt by the bed, the Bible open. Thank you, God, Samuel whispered, his voice unsteady, for the gift for her. Anna nodded. Tears fell on the pages. Amen. The community heard quickly at church gatherings by the wells. Anna's mother, Sarah, brought pies and whispered to neighbors, a child, a miracle. Eva Strock smiled. God has blessed them. A miracle after burdens. The elders nodded to Miller. God's plan, we hold to it. Rachel Hurd in the yard stood with a basket of eggs. Her lips thinned, her eyes narrowed. Happiness, she thought, her heart pinching with bitterness. But not for me. She did not protest aloud, only nodded and walked away in silence. At night, Anna could not sleep. She lay on her side, a hand on her belly, feeling warmth under her palm. Esther, she whispered, the name slipping out like a breath. You will be strong. Samuel woke, heard her, and laid his hand over hers heavy, promising. I will guard you both, he said softly into the dark. The months of pregnancy moved slowly. Winter came, early snow dusted the fields of Lancaster County. Wagon wheels creaked more dully in the frost. Samuel took care upon himself as if it were another lathe in the shop. He read all he could about childbirth, no English frills, only advice from the community's books where women shared experience in letters and notes. In the evenings by the kerosene lamp, he turned pages, his voice low, repeating to Anna, "Breathe steady, hold a hand. The women say it helps." She nodded, a hand on her belly, feeling the baby's movements. "You do not have to," she would say, though her heart warmed. "I am strong." He only smiled. "We are together." He organized help. He spoke with his mother, Sana, and with neighbors Eva and Lizzie to come in turns, bring broth, sew diapers. For Anna, he told Bishop Miller in asking a blessing, "The community holds one another." The women nodded and brought baskets, bread, cheese, quilted blankets with simple patterns. Anna sat at home, the kerosene smell mixing with the scent of his tools' wood, and thought, "He builds not only chests, he builds a home for us." The care tested her weakness, grew near the term, but his presence gave strength. "Ordnung is not a whip," she whispered at night, pressing to him. "It is a frame for love." Rachel did not stay silent for long. At a church gathering 2 weeks before the birth, she approached Deacon Rafe, her voice quiet but sharp as a needle in embroidery. Women stood by the well, pails clinked, snow crunched underfoot. "Deacon," Rachel said, wiping her hands on her apron. "Anna's pregnancy, it is not proven. So soon after marriage. Who knows if the English doctor was not mistaken? The community should verify." Rafe frowned, glancing toward Bishop Miller, who stood nearby with a Bible. Miller heard, stepped closer, his beard silvering in the cold wind, his voice gentle but firm. "Enough, Rachel," he said, looking her in the eye. "God gives gifts. We are not the judges. You have wounded a sister with your words, now hold your tongue. Ordnung is about mercy, not suspicion." Rachel stepped back, her cheeks flared, her lips tightened. He defends her, she thought, her heart pinched by hurt. And I am left with emptiness. She nodded and withdrew in silence. Her anger faded, only pain remained, whispering of letting go. The birth came on a winter morning as snow fell softly on the windowsill, and the kerosene lamp burned steady, throwing warm light on the walls. The wind rustled at the door, but inside was quiet, broken only by Anna's moans. Community women Sarah and Eva stood by with cloths and water, whispering prayers. Samuel held her hand rough with calluses, but sure never letting go. "Breathe, dear," he said softly, his voice shaking with strain, sweat on his brow. "I am here. You are strong." Anna gripped his fingers, nails digging into his skin. Pain tore through her in wave after wave, but fire burned in her eyes. "For us," she thought, breathing in gasps. "For the child who will lift the shadow." Her cries rose. The women urged her on. "A little more, Anna." And then a cry, sure and strong, filled the room. The child, a boy, with dark hair like Samuel's, wailed as if declaring himself. Anna fell back on the pillows, exhausted but smiling. Tears mingled with sweat. Samuel bent and kissed her brow, his voice breaking. "You did it, our son." The grandparents leaned close in the lamplight. Sarah wrapped him in a blanket. "Jonas," Anna said quietly, looking at Samuel, "like your brother. Subscribe to our channel so you do not miss out, because this is nothing compared to what comes next. If you are under 18, do not even think of pressing next.